welcome everybody. John, could you do the invocation for us?
Sure. Let's be in a humble spirit of prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this gorgeous day. We pray during this time that you provide us with the means to have safe and fair elections. We pray for our Rotarians and all the residents on the West Coast. Keep them safe, keep them well, help them resolve the fire and air situation. We pray for the food we're about to eat, dear God. Give us the strength to do your will. We ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And Debbie, could you pull up a flag for us so we could do the Pledge of Allegiance?
I can.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
For which it stands,
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, do we have some guests? As I mentioned earlier, we have Alex Pavlov today joining us. He's our featured speaker. Thank you, Alex, for coming.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Do we have anybody else that has somebody in the background that we don't see that they would like to introduce?
Steve, I've asked
Mike Pope is in the back, waiting to hear Alex talk.
Thank you.
Steve, I've asked our new Parks and Recreation Director, Jason Shattuck, to join us today. At some point too, if you want to talk about now or later the craft beer gathering, he can do that. Just let me know when.
Perfect. Welcome, Jason. Yeah, after we're done with with Alex, we'd love to hear what you have to say. That'd be perfect. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, today in history. Let's see. I see Casey's not here, so I did a little bit of research. Kind of a funny thing. Way back in September 15, 2002, U.S. President George Bush at the time estimated the Iraq war would cost between 100 and 200 billion dollars. In 2007, Congressional Budget Officer made a report and said the longtime price of that war was 1.9 trillion. So you underestimated just a little bit.
Just a skosh off.
Yeah, just a little bit. Today in history, The Lone Ranger on September 15th, 1949 was first aired, along with Lost in Space was also aired for you fans of the movies. The first woman minister in the U.S., Antoinette Brown Blackwell, became the first woman minister in the U.S. when she was ordained at the Congregational Church in New York on September 15th, 1853. Some birthdays we have. William Howard Taft, the 27th U.S. president, was born September 15th, 1857. Oliver Stone was born in 1946 on this date. And the Dalton Gang holds up a train and takes $2,500 at in Wagoneer, Oklahoma in 1891 on this date.
Let's get back in history.
What's that?
Let's get back in history. We had a wonderful, my wife and I had a wonderful blessing on this day. My second oldest son, Steve, was born.
When was I born?
he was born in October.
He says Steve Baczynski's birthday.
He doesn't even know my birthday.
Oh, okay. You're announcing it. Okay.
Well, see, now you know who his favorite son is. It certainly isn't me.
Boy, did I goof. It's been a bad day. I've had a bad computer day.
What was that, Joe? Oh, I mean, Robin?
But see, I usually don't start celebrating my birthday till the beginning of October, but I can start celebrating it now. That's no problem. I have one more day in history. The largest Chapter 11 bankruptcy in U.S. history is filed by Lehman Brothers in 2008 on this day. That was a pretty sad day, too. So that's what I have in history. Does anybody else have some fake birthdays they want to talk about?
Yeah.
No way.
Okay, now special days for Rotary here. Josh Hayes, born September 9th. Vern Rudder was born on September 19th. So a happy birthday to those guys. Does anybody else want to have some birthdays they would like to talk about? Speak up now or forever hold your peace.
Today is my wife's birthday.
Well, happy birthday to her. I wonder why that didn't pop up. Do you have that updated on Club Runner there, Dave?
It should be, yeah.
Huh. Okay, I'll have to find out why I missed that. Okay. Well, happy birthday to her, Dave.
Thank you. She says thanks.
Okay, does anybody have some happy or sad dollars? Carl, do you want to
Yeah,
have
I've
that
got
up?
a sad dollar. The Browns are playing again.
And we don't have to wait till Sunday. They're coming up on Thursday even earlier.
Yeah.
I have a happy dollar. Thanks for Alex for coming to visit us today and speak on our elections that are coming up. Thank you.
Join the meeting.
Anybody else have a happy or sad dollar? Okay, I missed the humor of the day. Mr. Conkle, did you want to say something funny?
Yeah, we're gonna let your father redeem himself. This one comes as a contribution from your dad, Robin. A kindergarten teacher was telling her students about different kinds of animals. Whales are the largest, she said, but they cannot swallow people because their throats are too small. But in the Bible, it says that Jonah was swallowed by a whale, said a little girl. You can't always believe what you read, the teacher replied. Well, when I go to heaven, said the little girl, I'll ask Jonah. And what if Jonah didn't go to heaven, said the teacher. The little girl replied, then you can ask him. Thanks, Robin.
That's good. That's funny. Okay, with that, I would like to introduce our featured speaker for today. We have Alex Pavlov. How do you pronounce your last name, Alex?
Pavlov.
Pavlov. We have Alex Pavlov. He is the Eastern Ohio Regional Liaison for Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRose. In that capacity, Alex helps Secretary LaRose administer election in 16 counties in an area that runs from Akron to Marietta. He is a proud graduate of the University of Akron and lives in Copley, Ohio with his wife, Jamie. Please join me in welcoming Alex Pavlov. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Steve, for that introduction, and Debbie for helping put this together. As mentioned, my name is Alex Pavlov. I'm the Eastern Ohio Regional Liaison for the Ohio Secretary of State, Frank LaRose. Big, long, fancy way of saying when he's double booked for Zoom, I get to go instead of him. And it's a fun job. I very much enjoyed it. I'm going to dive into elections operations in Ohio. That's one of the primary functions of what our office does. And as you guys may be aware, there's an election coming up. You might have heard. So I'm going to dive into those specifics. I'll talk a little bit about the office generally and some of the other things we do. But first and foremost, let me say that I'm I like doing interactive presentations. So if you feel free to just pop your hand up or whatever, and we can talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. So let me start with a 30,000-foot view of the office. So the Ohio Secretary of State's office has two main functions: conducting elections in the state of Ohio, along with our 88 county boards of elections. That's the focus. That's the part of the office that gets all the focus. We are also the front door for new businesses in Ohio. So if you are an entrepreneur or somebody that wants to start a charity or anything to that effect, you will go onto our website and file for your articles of incorporation. We've got some of the lowest prices in the Midwest and in the country on those articles of incorporation. If you guys are out there in the community and you know anybody that's got any issues with that, feel free to send them my way. I'll plug my contact info in the chat before we get out of here. And some good news on that front in the midst of this pandemic, even though we have seen some economic stagnation, statewide and nationally and globally, business filings in Ohio continue to trend upwards and continue to move on a record-setting trajectory. This isn't a perfect economic indicator. There are better economic indicators out there, but it is an economic indicator at the very least. And so, that suggests that despite what's going on out there, Ohioans are still out there, taking a risk and trying to create something which is exciting. So on to the elections part of the office, especially this time of the year. This is the part of the office that gets all the attention. So we are the state agency, as I mentioned, responsible for working with each county board of elections to help them administer elections. And that's everything from processing voter registration, right? The first thing you do before you start voting, all the way through double checking and triple checking and quadruple checking our vote totals on the back end. So every piece of the process, campaign finance, all that kind of stuff. So we've got probably 60, 75 people in our office that's located in Columbus. Most people are working remotely right now. And as a regional liaison, I am on the road and I work out of my home in Copley. I am a proud Summit County resident. I like to say that there are 88 counties in Ohio. 87 of them have the same problem. They are not Summit County. Work a lot with those board of elections in my 16 county area, including the Summit County Board of Elections. We've got a tremendous board of elections here. It's really an institution. A lot of them are around Ohio. These organizations, if you guys aren't familiar, are staffed completely in a bipartisan manner. So you have Democrats and Republicans that do essentially every job in tandem. The idea being that there's a check and balance there. So we know that elections in Ohio are conducted fairly, right? You've got that bipartisan check to make sure nobody's putting their thumb on the scale, which is something we take very, very seriously in the Ohio Secretary of State's office. So that's a little bit about the office. So let's dial down into what's going on with this election, right? This is a crazy election. This is nuts. I don't know if you guys have ever seen anything like this. I haven't. So there's a couple dynamics at play, right? Obviously, we've got a global pandemic going on. This is something that we never anticipated, would be a likely scenario. You can plan for every contingency that's out there, but once you're really facing, an actual global emergency, things change. On top of that, we've probably got the highest profile presidential election in some of our lifetimes. And we anticipate voter participation in Ohio, measured by voter turnout, the percent of registered voters that will vote, is going to be close to 75% of Ohioans voting, which will be an all-time record. So you've got a global pandemic, you've got a very, very high volume of voter participation. And then when you combine those two, you've got an election that looks different from previous elections. You've got a much higher percentage of people voting by mail than ever before. We anticipate about 50% of the votes cast in Ohio this election will be cast via absentee ballot. So let's talk about the election time frame specifically in Ohio. We like to say election day, but really in Ohio, we've got election month. So that month-long period will look a lot like the election month you guys all know. You will have a month to either request, vote, and return your absentee ballot, or show up to your Board of Elections and vote early in person, or show up to the polls on election day as you traditionally do and vote there. So this is not going to look like our spring election, which was all mail-in. This is, the same three options Ohioans have had for the past decade are going to be available to them. So let me take a step back and tell you about what we've been doing over the past couple of years in the office. So we anticipated with how high profile this election would be that we would have to take some extra precautions. And that started in early 2019 when we started a robust cybersecurity initiative with our county boards of elections and issued what is essentially a 36-point pre-flight checklist for a number of cybersecurity things to help boards of elections boost their infrastructure. Now good news, your voting and tabulation equipment in all 88 counties in Ohio is never connected to the internet. In fact, it's a felony to do that. Occasionally you'll see these headlines that come out of these computer science conferences that say, oh, hackers hack elections equipment. Well, yeah, because they sat there in a room with tools for 8 hours and the equipment. And if you have somebody with tools and technological know-how and time, they could do that, sure. But that is not feasible on election day or in that time period beforehand. But where we are susceptible to maybe some cyber attacks, or at least we were, hopefully, is in our voter registration system, which is a big database that's kept online with everybody's registration records and their signatures and their driver's license number and all sorts of their voting history, all sorts of stuff. Our websites were also vulnerable. Boards of elections were using .com or .org addresses, not the preferred and safer .gov email and web address. So we've encouraged them all. In fact, we've required them all to move to .gov addresses. And finally, social media presents a new paradigm for us that wasn't around 10 years ago, where if foreign agents wanted to destabilize the election, they could go create a fake Facebook page for the Summit County Board of Elections and start saying, hey, everybody, elections postponed, or hey, voters in Macedonia, your polling location's moved. You've got to go vote in Sagamore Hills now, right? And just kind of create some confusion there. And so we require all the boards of elections to get Facebook pages and move to get them verified, Twitter accounts as well, so we can help combat that disinformation. Finally, we did a robust physical security overhaul. So requiring cameras at boards of elections, setting up protective glass or plexiglass at the counters of board of elections. And it turns out that some of these security upgrades that we asked the boards of elections to do double as pandemic upgrades, which is great. That plexiglass, while simultaneously protecting our board employees from physical threats, also protects them from sneezes and transmissions of germs. So we got lucky there. So now I'm going to move. Any questions on that and the stuff we did on that front? Great, seeing none. Moving on to what we're doing in the midst of the pandemic. So the answer is we're doing a lot to make sure this election runs smoothly. First and foremost, we're getting PPE to the boards of elections as quickly as possible. So we were able to secure a statewide donation of surgical masks. So every board of elections employee and every poll worker, we call them precinct elections officials or PEO, every single one of them will have a mask for election day, which is phenomenal news. We're able to get about 500,000 masks from a company up in Mentor that was very generous in their donation. We've also secured some hand sanitizer from a couple different avenues. One is AB InBev, which is the company that produces Budweiser, among other products, and they're distributing hand sanitizer for elections nationally. So we're very grateful for that. We're also working with the counties and the county boards of elections and their EMAs, emergency management associations, and public health departments to emergency management agencies to procure whatever PPE we can on the local level for election day and the time leading up before that. So in theory, all of our elections workers will have gloves and gowns if need be, and face shields, and just all sorts of PPE to help stop the transmission of germs. We've also implemented a number of health guidelines. So you can't require social distancing in all of your polling locations if, for instance, you've got, a small township firehouse that doesn't have enough room for 4 people to stand 6 feet apart, right? It's not possible. So we've asked boards of elections when they can to social distance. And if they're in a situation like that, to take appropriate precautions to ensure that there is still no transmission of germs. And that's, we're talking full PPE in those instances. We also want to ensure that we've got some social distancing in lines, if there are any. The technology is updated for checking in to vote at the polls over the past couple of years. So it used to be you'd go in and there'd be a paper notebook and you'd sign your name in the paper notebook, and the PEO would look at it and say, all right, looks good, enjoy, and hand you a ballot. Now that entire process is conducted on an iPad, which has cut the time down to check in at the polls remarkably. And so we really haven't seen any of the traditional lines at polls this cycle. Now, mark my words, some media outlet somewhere is going to say, this November, oh, there was a line outside and wrapped clear around the building. Well, true, right? Because there's high volume, and also when people are standing in those lines, we want them standing 6 feet apart, right? We want them social distancing. So yeah, it's going to be a long line, but because of the technological innovations we have at the polls, with these e-poll books, that line is going to move much more quickly. So please, if any of you end up in that situation where you show up to vote after work on election day and there's a line, jump in the line, because it's going to move quickly and we're going to get you voted. And the absolute last thing I want, or Frank LaRose wants, is for you guys to be dissuaded from participating in our electoral process because of the appearance of a line. So there's a couple other things we've done. Some of them you guys might have heard about, some you might not have. The first is we've got Dropboxes now at all the county board of elections. This is interesting from a legislative and legal perspective. So when we had a House bill that came through in the midst of the beginning of the pandemic, House Bill 197, which was essentially the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Response Act from the Ohio legislature, and had a number of things in it, including some elections operations stuff, because we had an election that was delayed because of the pandemic. So one of the things we did was we had all of the county board of elections install a Dropbox in front of their board. This is a big metal box that you can, in most cases, in Summit County certainly, you can drive up to. You could put your absentee ballot request in there, or when you've finished your ballot, you can drop it off in there as well, and you don't have to interact with another person if you don't want to. Some of us like that because we're introverts. Some of us, like it because we're, concerned about the transmission of disease. Some of us both, and that's okay. So you've got that ability. That also, takes the post office out of the equation on a couple steps. So I know it's a long drive from the Nordonia Hills area down to the Summit County Board of Elections over on Grant Street by the university. But if you feel strongly about that, my aunt is a prime example of this. She wants to drop the ballot off herself. Feel free to do that. There's been some discussion about expanding the Dropbox program. This is an interesting idea, and the Secretary of State has said that he's supportive of it, but it's going to require some sort of act from the legislature, right? We need the House and the Senate to get together, the State House and the State Senate to get together and pass a bill to that effect. And frankly, I don't know if you guys have been following State House news recently, but I don't see the legislature passing anything for the time being, which is really too bad. Because there are some legislative suggestions that we had made for elections operations in Ohio, and nothing's passing, which is too bad. Don't worry, we'll be able to conduct the election without those legislative fixes, but it just would have made life easier for our men and women that work at the Board of Elections. So we've got one Dropbox at each of these county boards of elections. It's under video surveillance, which is good, right? Security is important. We don't want anybody messing around with these Dropboxes. And we're hopeful that will help alleviate some of the issues as well. We've also changed some of the health guidelines for voters in nursing homes or voters experiencing unforeseen hospitalizations. So under Ohio law, if you are in one of those two categories, the Board of Elections has traditionally delivered a ballot to you to vote one way or another. In the case of nursing homes, it's a bipartisan team of Republicans and Democrats that go to the nursing home and help all the folks vote there. In the case of unforeseen hospitalizations, same idea. Republican and Democrat, take a ballot to the hospital and help you vote it right there. Well, we've got something to figure out with both of these types of institutions, right? Having rules about who can come in, right? Because they're concerned about the transmission of disease, rightly so. And so what we did in consultation with some of the medical associations around the state of Ohio and with some of our friends over in the healthcare and the nursing home industry, created a provision of our direction to boards of elections that said, hey, if you've got a nursing home or a hospital that doesn't want outside people coming in unnecessarily, that's fine. You need to find one Republican and one Democrat in your facility or on your staff and put them together as a team, and we'll deputize them and we'll train them to be one of these precinct elections officials and help people vote inside that facility, right? They're already going to be there. So, let's mask them up and get them the tools they need to make sure people can vote. The 14th and 15th Amendments are pretty clear. Regardless of what's going on in your life, you've got a right to vote. So, we have to adjust to that accordingly. So let's talk about what we need going forward. Any questions on that stuff, actually, before I move on?
Alex, I have a question about the Dropbox.
Sure.
I guess I'm not sure. You said it requires legislative approval, to have a second Dropbox. Did it have a legislative approval to create the first Dropbox?
Yes.
And also, I would ask you to talk to Frank about getting that approved, maybe not just for this election because the time is short, but certainly the fact that it is a 30-minute drive for Nordonia Hills, plus with the construction on Route 8, and we both know the Summit County Board of Elections parking lot is so small, there's a traffic jam there any day of the week, let alone a dropping your ballot off day. So having one maybe over at Costco in Boston Heights certainly would be a lot more convenient for a good portion of the county. That's all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great idea, and it's something that Frank has publicly said he's supportive of. It's just nothing's getting passed in the legislature right now. It's unfortunate, right? We as Ohioans, and this is me taking off my Secretary of State hat and putting on my political engagement hat, but we as Ohioans should ask ourselves why two of the past three speakers of the Ohio House of Representatives have active FBI investigations going on, right? That's a problem. And so I would encourage you to have conversations with your state legislators about that. Because it's affecting elections operations. It's affecting other problems that we've got going on in Ohio that we need these folks to fix, and nothing's moving, right? It's not good. So yeah, absolutely. We're in support of that, but I don't see any bills getting passed to that effect right now. And especially as we get closer and closer to Election Day, the legislature is less likely to issue anything that would change elections operations. We're already inside the 90-day window that would require an emergency clause on that legislation for it to take effect for election day. So yeah, unfortunately, right, I don't see it happening, which is too bad. Any other questions on that front? All right, putting back on the elections operations hat. Right. So what we need in Ohio more than anything is we need help working the polls. We need precinct elections officials. And it's a long day to work the election. You've got to be there when the polls open. In fact, you've got to be there before that. The polls will open, I believe, at 6:30, and you got to stay there until they close, which is at 7:30. So it's a long day, but it's good work. It is civic engagement. It's important for us to participate in our democracy. It's important for us to be literate in our democratic process and understand exactly what goes into voting and counting a vote. On the front end, it's easy, right? I go there, I sign in, I get the ballot, I fill in the bubble, I put it in the machine, I'm done, right? On the back end, it is an incredibly complex process, intentionally so, because we need redundancies and checks and balances, because this is so important and people's faith in democracy is so important, that we need to get this done the right way. And so I would encourage you guys, or if you have friends that are interested, encourage them to sign up to work the polls. You can do it a couple ways. You can go to voteohio.gov, which is our website, and sign up there. Or you can pick up the phone and call the Summit County Board of Elections, and they'd be thrilled to have you. And both of those are viable. Good news is this has been something we've been pushing with a number of different initiatives over the past couple of months, and we're seeing people respond. We're seeing people sign up, and kind of a new generation of poll workers signing up, which is phenomenal. You know, there were issues in other states in the primary elections not having enough poll workers, and as it stands right now, we're headed in the right direction. Still need help, but head in the right direction, which is good. So we've got a few specific initiatives out there that I'll tell you about for these poll workers. The first one's targeted to veterans. You guys familiar with Frank LaRose? He used to represent you guys in the state Senate. You know, he's a veteran. And so he's pushing a program called Second Call of Duty, encouraging veterans around the state to sign up to work the polls. This is something we're working with veterans organizations on, American Legions, VFWs, those folks, Great Americans, to get their membership motivated to help here. Another initiative we've got for the younger people in any of your lives is something called Youth at the Booth. And if you are 17 years old and a high school senior or older, 17 or older, and a high school senior, you can work the polls on election day. And I got to tell you, the kids around the state that do this are phenomenal, because you talk about those iPads that everybody uses to check in. They know them backwards and forwards and inside out, and they are just absolutely an asset on that front. So if you have any 17 or 18-year-old high school seniors in your life and they want to work the polls, we'd love to have them. We've also got a couple professional accreditation initiatives. So we work with the Ohio Supreme Court to get continuing legal education credits for any attorneys that work the polls on election day. This is exciting for litigators out there because traditionally you have to pay to get CLEs, and here's a chance to get paid to get CLEs. Now the pay is not going to match what you put in for your billable hours, but you're not spending money on that, which is nice. And once we announced that, the state accounting agency or accountants, association, as well as the Realtors Association, both of their own volition, said, hey, we've got continuing education units for our folks too. You know, we might as well make this an initiative for them as well. So if you are a realtor or an accountant or an attorney, you can get continuing education credits in your field by working the polls, which is exciting. Our last kind of initiative that I think is a good fit for this group is something we call Work a Day, Donate Your Pay. So maybe you're somebody that's out there that's involved in civic or charity organizations, and you want to work the polls, but hey, the $150, $200 they pay you, that's nice, but you don't necessarily need it. Well, we're encouraging people, if they want to go work the polls, get paid by the Board of Elections, and then turn around and donate that money to a charity or a civic group like a Rotary Club or whatever, any Boy Scouts, churches, whoever you want to donate it to. We think that's a fine thing to do as well. So that's, if there's one takeaway message for you guys here, it's please come work the polls with us. It is a lot of fun. You get to be a participant in American democracy. You get to be one of those checks and balances, working hand in hand with somebody from the opposite party to ensure the election runs smoothly. We're headed, with all of those concerns about the global pandemic, about this very high turnout election, we're headed in the right direction here. And it looks like that we're going to have an election, as a tradition in Ohio, that is safe, that is secure, and that we can all be proud of and continue to have faith in that institution. It's a very precious institution. If Americans give up on their faith in democracy, experiment's over, right? It's the belief that your vote matters and your vote counts. that keeps people participating and is really one of the critical pieces of the American experiment. So I'll open it up to questions. Anybody? I know there was a lot of information really quick.
Yeah, what kind of training commitments required?
Sure. It's about a half day. It's probably 3 hours of training.
Is that on location or in our own home?
That is, if you have previously worked as a precinct elections official, you can do it online in your own home. If you are new to this, there are regional trainings held around the county. So I know that there's a couple in Hudson coming up. I'm sure that there are a couple up in the Nordonia Hills region as well. But they hold those trainings kind of over the next 6 weeks. They'll be conducting those trainings. And you get paid. You get paid for the trainings too.
What is being done to restore like faith or the belief that the mail-in ballots are going to be accurate and not, I guess, doctored, for lack of a better term?
Sure. Yeah, that's something we always get, right? Every year, even before this election, people are saying, oh, they don't count those absentee ballots. Not true, right? Not true. Those are the first ones counted. And voting by mail-in in Ohio is very safe and very secure, and something that you shouldn't have concerns about. Feel free to use the Dropbox if you want, but you should not have concerns about it. So to answer your question, what are we doing? I mean, we're evangelists for this constantly, right? We are out there telling people every opportunity we get, your vote by mail will be counted. Your vote by mail is safe. And unfortunately, there are people out there that are constantly saying the other thing. Some of them live here and are just prone to saying mean things on the internet. Some of them live in other countries and are tasked every day with destabilizing American elections, right? And so we've got to deal with both of those. And you guys can join us there and spread that message that it's safe to vote by mail. Your vote will be counted. The boards of elections are just impressive organizations in terms of their ability to conduct elections and process the high volumes of mail. And when we had the election in the spring, those boards of elections were tasked in a very short window of time with pivoting to conducting an all mail-in election, which they did without issue. You always have some localized issues here and there with boards of elections on election day, but because of the redundancies and the checks and balances we have, it's always something that you can fix. And we had a few, but they were fine. We fixed it. The votes were counted accurately. No big deal. Now the post office is another story because sometimes they're a little bit slow. And so that is an organization that they probably need some work on the federal level. But the Dropboxes can help alleviate that. But the boards of elections showed us this spring that they've got the ability to process a very, very high volume of mail and process it accurately and get those votes counted.
I guess my biggest concern with the whole mail-in voting is verifying that it's actually a registered voter that's signing up to do that. You have a lot of things in place for that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a phenomenal question, and something we get a lot of. So there are states out there. There's probably 8 of them that send out ballots to all registered voters. And so when you hear mail-in elections discussed at the national level, that's usually what people are referring to. And they describe our system that we have here in Ohio as absentee voting, right? We use the terms interchangeably in Ohio, but at the national level, that's the differentiation here. So to answer your question specifically, which is a great question, what checks and balances do we have in place to ensure that the person that's voting is registered to vote? Well, we've got several. So it starts off when you sign up to register to vote. You will sign that form to register to vote. You will put your personal identification information on there, either the last 4 digits of your social security number or your driver's license number. And then you'll put, name, address, all of that information, right? All of this will be, including that signature, will be entered into that voter registration database at your county board of elections. By the way, one of the strengths of Ohio elections is we are decentralized. So we've got 88 county boards of elections, and they are free to use within reason, and whoever's certified, whatever voting machine vendor, voter registration vendor, e-poll book vendor they choose to contract with. You have to be certified by the state and certified by the federal government, but because of that decentralized nature, you're not going to run into the problems that we saw in Georgia in the spring, where they were buying elections equipment for the entire state. And they had a meltdown across the state. And so the decentralization of Ohio's elections operations, including that voter registration system, are really, really something we should be proud of. So in that voter registration system, you've got that information, you've got that signature, and then you're going to go fill out that absentee ballot request. And on that absentee ballot request, you're going to put all that same information. You're going to put your name, you're going to put that personal identification information, whichever one you choose, and then you're going to sign it. And you're going to mail it to the Board of Elections or drop it off in the Dropbox. And then an employee at the Board of Elections will get that form. And they're going to look at that form in a bipartisan team with a Republican and a Democrat, and they're going to pull up your information on that voter registration system. And they're going to make sure everything matches: name, address, date of birth, personal identification information. And then they're going to check your signature. And they're going to make sure your signature matches. If it doesn't match, they're going to send you a letter and say, hey, we got your absentee ballot request, but signature doesn't match. What's going on there? And so if somebody were trying to fraudulently vote for you, you'd go, oh, something's wrong here. Or perhaps your signature changed. My signature's changed over time. You say, oh, my signature changed. And they say, it's no problem. Fill out this form with your new signature. You'll be fine. So once you do that, let's say everything's filled out the right way. They will send you a ballot. And along with that ballot will be what we call an ID envelope. And that ID envelope has the exact same fields as that absentee ballot request form: name, address, date of birth, personal identification information, then a line at the bottom for you to sign it, right? And so you will you'll vote your ballot, you'll fill out all this stuff, and you'll mail it back in, and you'll drop it off the Dropbox. And again, that bipartisan team is going to pull out that ID envelope, right, with that ballot inside of it, and they're going to match all of that information up in that voter registration system again. So you've got, essentially three major checks on all of this information at two separate intervals, three if you count the voter registration, but that's a different story. So two different intervals through a bipartisan team to verify that ballot is going to the person it's supposed to go to. And the result is, in Ohio, our instances of voter fraud are exceptionally small. I mean, if there's a crime out there, somebody's going to commit it, right? And we do have people that commit voter fraud in Ohio. Usually, and this is an unfortunate situation, it's people that are applying to be citizens, get really excited about the citizenship process, and they're not quite a citizen yet, but they get really excited and they say, oh, I'm going to go vote. This is going to be so cool. I love America. Love it. Love the idea, guys, but you have to wait until you're an actual citizen and you register before you can vote. So that's where we get some of our voter fraud from. We also get folks that think they're gaming the system. They'll vote, in Pennsylvania in the morning, or Ohio in the afternoon, Indiana in the morning, Ohio in the afternoon, or maybe they request an absentee ballot in Florida and go vote in person in Ohio. We've got a system, right, to track that. There is a national database of states that share voter history and voter information. So every year we match that up, right? And so we can tell if you're going to vote in two states, we're going to catch you. And then those people are referred for prosecution because that's a crime.
Question here. I read that any organization can send out absentee ballot requests. Does that cause confusion?
Sometimes, yeah, absolutely. And that's true. Anybody can send out an absentee ballot request. And in fact, you could write your own absentee ballot request if you wanted to. If you wanted to get a sheet of paper, right, and put all of those fields that are on the absentee ballot request form onto that sheet of paper and fill them out and sign it at the bottom and have your driver's license number on it and the address you want your ballot mailed to and your birthday and everything, and send it to the Board of Elections, that counts. That's an absentee ballot request. And so other organizations can do that too. Now, here's where the confusion happens. Somebody sends that out and they'll pre-fill the information, right? By the way, the Ohio Secretary of State's office sent absentee ballot request forms to every registered voter And usually when I talk to Rotary clubs, everybody's registered to vote. So you should have gotten that. Feel free to fill that one out and send it in. If you want to vote absentee, that's fine. But we'll get these groups that put in, they'll pre-fill the name, right? And they'll have bad data. And so it'll be somebody that doesn't live at the house anymore, or, they'll pre-fill the name and the address, but they won't put in the birth date, right? And so the person fills out the form the right way, and it's a legitimate form, but they just forget to fill in the birth date. And that's a problem too. And so what we do with the boards of elections, when they receive those, and that bipartisan team, they'll look at it and say, oh, Steve forgot his birthday. And they will send you a letter, or this is a legislative change. They can now call you or email you and say, hey, Steve, you forgot your birthday here. Government moves slowly, and we've just given the boards of elections the ability to call voters and say that there's something wrong with their absentee ballot request, but it's good to have that process in place.
How long does it take to count, or when do they start counting absentee ballots?
Yeah, that's a great question. So they're allowed to scan the absentee ballots the week of the election. They are not allowed to tabulate until election night. So, the difference between those two, and it sounds like it's just semantics, but there is a difference. They can put the ballots, in Summit County, we fill in the little bubble through the computer, and the computer can count those. However, it requires a different function of the computer, right, to press a button and tabulate those results and count those results up. So they are prohibited from doing that before the polls close. And the natural segue there is when are we going to find out our results? We will probably know most of our results the night of. It is going to be a very high turnout election. There's going to be a lot of volume there, and some results may be delayed. Now, if there are exceptionally close races, state law in Ohio says if it's within 0.5%, the margins of victory, then there's an automatic recount. So if there's an exceptionally close race, we may not know. But I anticipate we will know that night, if not the next day. Yeah.
Okay, Alex, thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
You can see by the amount of questions, we were very interested in what you had to say today. Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.
If anybody has any more questions for Alex, drop me an email and I'll forward them to Alex, or I'll forward you his email address, and I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any more questions that you may come up with between now and elections. Right, Alex?
Absolutely, and I just put my contact information in the chat box as well. So whatever we can do to help you, we're happy to.
Excellent. So everyone, if you want to email him any more questions, just pull up the chat box there, and you got his email address. Thanks again, Alex. You're more than welcome to stay with us if you want. We got a few other things to go over, but I know you're a busy man. You may want to jump out and move on, but thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. With that being said, let's see what, was it Jason Chaddock? Yes, what do you have to tell us about the virtual craft beer festival that we've been looking into?
Well, first, thanks for having me on. My name is Jason Chaddock. I'm the new Parks and Recreation Director here with the City of Macedonia. And we've been talking as a staff, going through some different things. Typically, our craft beer and food truck festival would have taken place. And obviously, with the COVID environment that we're currently living in, we just discovered that was not going to be feasible for us. And then upon my arrival here, we started talking about some alternate ideas that we could do. We saw some different cities conducting essentially virtual beer fest in different ways. One of the things that we were looking into is kind of same as what they did down in Kent. They had a company come in called Rivalry Brew, who essentially picks up beer from various breweries throughout the state, and they conduct this process within Ohio, Pennsylvania, and now they've recently picked up DC and Virginia. So they pick up beer from everywhere, essentially within those four areas. And what we're looking at doing right now is a little bit different than what was done before. We were investigating the idea in the last couple of weeks about doing a kind of a whole beer fest online and having brewers come in and talk about different things. We've also discovered some of the difficulties in getting that set up in a short period of time. So we're looking right now to get together with Rivalry and work our way towards a special holiday pack that can be purchased. So we're looking into more of the winter season and get a holiday pack of beer that could be distributed to people that decide to partner with us on that. Essentially, it would be us partnering with Rivalry and offering this opportunity to be able to purchase their 12 packs, and Rivalry would do all the gathering of the beer from the various breweries and then getting that distributed to the houses for which those orders come through on. And then at that point, we were looking just to have information and videos available on our website from some of the local breweries that we end up partnering with. For us, a lot of it is how do we keep generating the good relationships that we've established with some of the different breweries. So that way next year we can get into our normal event that we would like to have each and every year. And the opposite side of that was, since we typically have the food trucks here and we couldn't do a big food truck event, what we have worked out is for the months of September and October, each week we are having a different food truck come into the rec center parking lot. So last week we had the Cleveland Cookie Dough Company, and this week, actually tonight, we have another company coming in, and they're going to be doing sandwiches and stuff. So we're excited about that. We had to separate into two different things instead of having everyone here all at once. We're doing the weekly food truck to continue those relationships, and then we're doing the opportunity with Rivalry Brew to try to get a little something out there to the community. So that's where we're at now. Appreciate you guys having me on. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, I guess the only question that I have is how can we help? You know, how can Rotary help Macedonia perform this?
Well, I appreciate you asking that. For us right now, we're going to put together some information, and then obviously you guys are all well connected within the community. As we get some information out, flyers and emails and social media, if you can just help us get that distributed to a wider audience, because we want to be able to help get this out to everybody. And this is more so just something we're hosting to partner with, so we can continue building the relationships for next year. That's the important part to us, is those future relationships. So if you can just help us with that, that would be fantastic. We'd really appreciate that.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I will, Nick, why don't you forward him my email address? And then we'll keep in touch and as this develops.
Hey, Steve, let me add one thing to that, though. The big reason why we weren't able to do something this year, and what Jason and I had talked about pretty extensively, is a 12-pack of beer was $48. And I just don't know that we would get the buy-in to pay $48 for 12 beers. That's awfully expensive. So that's why he's working on the alternatives now, and the original plan kind of got washed.
Right. Understood. Like you say, the goal here is to keep everyone in keep the relationships going. So we launch this thing again in hopefully next fall, everyone's going to remember who we are. So, okay, I will be in touch. And again, just keep us informed. Okay. Does anybody else have any more questions regarding the craft foods, the craft beer? Okay, a few more announcements. The shoe boxes are due this week. So anybody that has put together a shoe box, we need to have those over to Terry. The deadline was the 18th, which is Friday. But if you could get them there by Thursday, that'd be even better to make sure they're all there. And again, just drop them off over at Builders Emporium. Terry's been on her honeymoon, so she's not there, but Builders Emporium knows what to do with the shoe box. Do you have anything else to mention on that, Debbie? No, all good. Okay. I want to remind everybody that it was good that Alex came in today, because Dave Fike is going to be working on gathering our local elected officials running for office. And so don't be setting up any speakers unless you talk to Dave first, because Dave's trying to put together some of the people running for office to talk via Zoom on a Rotary event here. Dave, do you have anything to add on that? Nope, still muted. Maybe Debbie can unmute you for you.
There it is. All right. Yes, I do have something to add to that. We're getting a little late start here. We're working on our list right now. Hopefully in the next day or so, we'll have everything out, and then we'll be in limbo land waiting for confirmation. But hopefully the Zooms will go a lot easier than the actual speakers coming out to our events, because it seems to free up a lot of road time. So postings will come out soon.
Okay. I see we do have a speaker, Linda Chris, VP of Communications with Akron Zoo. She's scheduled for October 6th. So the rest of the month is open then. So you got like 3 more weeks.
Okay. Perfect.
So, should be good with that. Let's see. September 22nd, regular meeting, Michelle Wilson, talking about Rotary Fellowships. September 29th, regular meeting, Hannah Miller, Ohio University Medical School, medical student. She's a cancer survivor. She should have a great story for us. And of course, we talked about the Craft Beer Food Festival, what's going on with that. And don't forget about February 6th, we're still planning on a reverse raffle. So anybody else have anything to add regarding anything coming up? Fantastic. Everyone, please join me for a 4-way test. Debbie, could you pull that up for anybody that may have forgot it? Please join me. Of the things we say, think, say, or do.
First, is it the
Is it
truth?
The truth,
Second, is it fair to all
fair
concerned?
to all concerned.
Third,
Third,
is
build the goodwill and better
Better friendships.
Fourth, will be
Fourth,
beneficial.
beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We're right on time. It's 1:01. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.